Well, I guess that should be our cue to start. So, hi, everybody. I'd like to thank you for being here. I'm just going to introduce myself and my partner in crime here, Elysa Gonzalez, is going to introduce herself. And we're just going to get started because we want to talk about resolving student issues before they become issues through the practice of culture of care. So, it should hopefully prove interesting. Certainly will prove to be fun. I'm Jackie Kyger. I'm a full-time faculty member here in the Master of Arts in Education and the College of Professional Advancement. Been here for 13 years full-time, been teaching for a couple years before that since 2010. It's certainly my privilege to be here. And my co-presenter is our very own Elysa Gonzalez. Elysa?
Thanks, Jackie. Like you said, my name is Elysa Gonzalez. I am with the Resolution Center. Been here for about 6 years now, and I have over 15 years of experience in higher education, spanning from business analysis and data and reporting to financial aid and student grievances. So I've been doing this for quite a while. And prior to stepping into this role, I was actually a case handler. So I was one of the folks dealing with student complaints on a daily basis. So I'm excited to be here representing my group and chatting with Jackie. Actually, I'll get started. So when Jackie first asked me to present with him, I was excited about the opportunity to brag about my team a bit and the great work that they do. But beyond that, my hope is that you'll leave here with a little more insight into what our team does and be reminded of the fact that, yes, while our team serves an important function for the university as sort of a customer service, complaint management, problem-solving group, and will continue to be there as a resource for students who have concerns and need help, there are things that you can do when you're working with a student to potentially de-escalate or, you know, help diffuse the situation. So to start, I wanted to give you just a brief breakdown of the smaller units that make up the Resolution Center. So I'm sure most of you within the UAGC organization are familiar with some of these names and have seen them in your inbox from time to time. So first, we've got our intake team, and they are responsible for reviewing and assessing each submission that we receive, whether it be from a student who filled out the form themselves or from referral from a staff or faculty member. And then we've also got academic resolution and formal grievance. And each of these groups has processes that serve to resolve our more complex concerns. So things that can't be taken care of within a day or two. And then lastly, there's me with technology and operations. My day-to-day involves a lot of data and reporting, which I promise I'm not going to bore you with, but information. These next two slides are taken from our roadshow presentation that we do for university staff members to give them more insight into our process and get out there so that they can see that we're real people, we're actually nice, we're not scary, and we're not just here to say no. So as I mentioned before, our intake unit touches every submission that comes our way. We will use the term triage interchangeably when talking about this group because that is what they do best. They are the front lines of our department and truly the unsung heroes when it comes to calming down students and getting to the root of their concerns. So students come to us for a whole host of reasons that could range from account balances and financial aid concerns to academics and grading, bias, discrimination, military or employer benefits, and even personal hardship. And obviously, this is not an all-encompassing list, and it's just an example of some of the things that we see. But during their phone calls or advising sessions, as we call them, with students, they'll listen to them and ask questions to better understand the issues and what their needs are. All while building a rapport with the students so that they feel comfortable and confident that we're going to do our best to correct any issues that we might uncover, and then connect them with various resources that the university offers if we think they might benefit from them, especially our colleagues within student affairs like career services, access and wellness, helpline, or CHAMPS mentoring. And then lastly, they'll determine if there's anything we can do to quickly assist the student, like connect them with the appropriate university process or provide them with information and clarity that they need to get past whatever hurdle is in their way so they can move along in their academic journey. And then for the instances where it's not such an easy fix, they may refer the student to what I will sometimes call our in-house processes, otherwise known as the academic resolution and formal grievance process. So during this stage, the case handler will take over from the intake team member and become the lead on working with the student to review these concerns and conduct their investigation. Usually involves speaking with the student or a faculty member, staff member that's involved, reviewing university policies and procedures, as well as the million student information systems that we have, and any supporting documentation that was provided. And then from there, our team will collaborate with academic and university leadership to determine possible outcomes, issue a response letter to the student, and then identify any potential gaps in university processes or policies, make suggestions on how to revise them and hopefully mitigate future issues. Now, on the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see the handy-dandy culture of care infographic. If you're anything like me, it is seared into your memory. But just to go over them again, communicate, advocate, respect, empower, and student-centeredness. These are the pillars, the foundation of the culture of care. And you might see these and think, how does a team that deals with complaints and disputes all day long fit into this culture of care model? Well, I've highlighted some of the ways our work fits into these various pillars, whether it be advocating for fairness in policy implementation, ensuring that those policies support student success to begin with, providing a fair and balanced review of concerns, or empowering the university with actionable data when we identify trends in hopes of mitigating future complaints. I'd argue that everything we do is rooted in the culture of care, and across the university, we all share the same mission of wanting to help students persist and graduate. Now, I share all of that information so that one, you're aware that the university has a team in place to address student concerns, and that we've got a plethora of policies and procedures that we follow in order to do so. Two, so that you can see how our work aligns with the university's culture of care mission. And three, that you realize that some students' concerns can be resolved simply by hearing them, listening to the student. So in thinking about some of the calls that I've had with students over the years, I kept coming back to the word empathy. And yes, that might be because empathy is my number one in Strengths Quest, if you're familiar with that. But it really is beneficial to put yourself in the student's shoes and use that to guide the conversations you have with them when they're upset. The first thing you can do is what I like to call a tone check. So over the years, I have learned that text does not convey tone well. And being an online institution, the reality of our situation is that a lot of our communication is going to be written. So take a beat, reread your words to see how they might be perceived by somebody who's already upset. Regulating your tone so that it's calm and steady helps to lower a student's defensiveness. If you can, consider picking up the phone so that they can hear the sincerity in your voice and know that you're not yelling at them, you're not judging them, you're just there to care. Validate their emotions to show that you see them as a human being, not just a student. More than anything, people want to feel seen and understood. So when you acknowledge their feelings before you get into the facts, what you're saying is your experience matters. You matter. I can't tell you the number of times our office has worked with a student who we had to deny their resolution request, but they've come back to us afterwards and said, hey, this wasn't the outcome I was hoping for, but I really do appreciate that you tried, that you looked into it, and that you cared. And that's priceless. Clarify to demonstrate that you have a genuine understanding. It leaves no room for interpretation or misunderstanding. Sometimes when we're upset, we ramble, we get off track, we're human. That's normal. So it's important to clarify and ask thoughtful questions. It shows that you're invested in understanding their perspective and not just moving them through a process. Next is collaboration, which is a big one. Shifting to more of a collaboration mindset changes the you versus them or them versus the university dynamic to more of a we're in this together situation. Collaboration ultimately communicates respect and partnership. It tells the student, you don't have to navigate this alone. I want to help you if I can. And then support. To me, support is empathy in action. When you're offering resources as a student, like Access and Wellness or the helpline, for example, or providing guidance or even just lending an ear for them to vent, you're helping the student feel less isolated and more capable. It helps replace the feelings of being overwhelmed with those of compassion. And then lastly, next steps. Clear next steps help, or at the very least, reduce future anxiety. Empathy recognizes that uncertainty is stressful, so close with a plan to prevent future frustrations. For me, when talking with students, that would look like me telling them a few of the things I was going to do next as part of my investigation and when they could expect to hear from me again. Calmed them down a bit, made them feel more at ease. Now, these steps might seem simple in theory, but it can be a little harder in practice when you're dealing with someone who's starting to get agitated. So just what I can say to you is try your best, be calm, remember those steps, and then know that we are here if and when the student needs us. So we are that safety net, and just always remember that. And now I'm going to pass this over to Jackie. He's going to talk a little bit more about this from a faculty perspective. Take it away, Jackie.
Well, thank you very much, Elysa. I appreciate it very much, this information. The wow, very helpful department here at UAGC, the Resolution Center. And what a responsibility too, because if you think about what might trigger that to get your department involved is someone reaching out, they're not happy. So it could simply be just having that conversation to perhaps make them happy, make them understand, and then we can all move on. But other times it can be very serious, and there's a big need to intervene. So I so much appreciate your department and what your team does to help our students succeed. And sometimes just feeling like you understand, to your point, maybe it doesn't always go, the outcome might not be what's expected going into it, but that new understanding of it's very valuable. So now as faculty, we can create online classroom where the students feel seen, supported, and motivated to succeed. And we can also do that in an effort to support the same end goals as the Resolution Center. So the magic ingredient, I feel the magic ingredient is simply, sorry, I just realized my webcam was being weird. So the magic ingredient is just be present. And it's being present doesn't just mean logging in, but really showing students that we notice, we see them, we hear them, and we care about their success. So let's dive in and kind of talk about the things we can do that will support them feeling resolved to begin with. So, okay, I admit it, that's a whole lot of Jackie on the screen you see right there in front of you. These are screenshots that I place, and I only place one. I don't place them all like you see here, but I place one at the end of each announcement in every week of the course I teach. I put it in the announcements, and in the announcements, I teach in the Master of Arts in Education, and I go on about PLOs and CLOs and WLOs and 21st century learning and all those important things that I want the student to leave with for that week. That's why I have my announcement. But I end it with one of those pictures, one of those photographs, because I want them to know that I'm there and that I'm present. Now, being present isn't always enough. So when I think about the Resolution Center, I think about being proactive in my classroom in maybe not conflict resolution, but conflict prevention. So preventing problems before they start, address common challenges up front, late submissions perhaps, technical issues perhaps, the discussion expectations perhaps, encourage your students to contact you while at the same time you set those clear boundaries. Now, an example, midweek, hopefully this is a refresher for a lot of the educators there, but midweek, send that email check-in. Being proactive signals that you're paying attention and that you're ready. You're paying attention and you're ready to help. Ensure accessible and an inclusive environment. Now, where I work here at the university, our courses are laid out for us, and there's a whole team, an accessibility team, and inclusion, universal design, all these things that go into play. But I still own part of that in my announcements, in my feedback, in my grading. So accessibility and inclusion, they're not just policies. They're a way to show that you care by being mindful of that. Excuse me. An example, personally respond in the discussion chats where you see opportunities to highlight diverse perspectives. As an example, thank you for sharing your insight. Can you expand on that a bit more? Students feel seen and included when you interact directly. Document your communication. We use Signals here. Signals is a tool that saves all your emails. So if you're not using the tool that saves your emails, you should. Be conscious in your emails that they may serve as documentation at a later point. That's not their goal. Their goal is to provide that service, but be mindful that's there. So use them as the tools. Keep a record of the interaction. If it's an extension request, if it's an assignment discussion, whatever it is. And as an example, send that friendly confirmation. Let them know they've been heard. Thanks for reaching out. I've noted your request. We're all set. This reassures students that you're attentive. And then the next one would be conflict detection. As we think about ways we can resolve things before they need to be resolved. Watch those warning signs. Missed deadlines, low participation, silence in the discussions, non-participation in the discussions. Reach out privately, reach out early, offer that support and just check in with them. As an example, a simple personalized message. I noticed you haven't submitted your late assignment. Let's make a plan together so you can get back on track. You're showing you're invested, showing them it's okay to come back full circle, get this fixed, get this going the direction it needs to go, and that you're there to help them. And then encourage, and I think this is very important because I feel like we're doing a lot as faculty, encourage student responsibility. That's part of caring in the culture. Empower students to take charge of their learning. Provide guidelines on how to ask for help respectfully and clarify those assignments. Recognize and praise the initiative, the progress. As an example, when a student reaches out for support, well, great job in asking the question. It shows the initiative. Validate where they're at, validate where you want them to go. Let's work together. Again, working together to make sure you succeed. Your presence encourages that self-advocacy and builds their confidence. And then model what you expect. Model professionalism, model empathy, model consistency. Always model calm, respectful, and supportive behavior. Acknowledge the challenges while maintaining the expectation. And remember, consistency. Apply expectations and deadlines and tone and follow through the same way for every student. As an example, share your own brief learning experiences. I've struggled with deadlines myself. Here's what worked for me. This humanizes you, shows empathy, reminds students everyone faces challenges. And then normalize. It should be normal in your classroom to seek help. Normalize help seeking. Normalize asking for help. Remind students reaching out isn't a sign of weakness. It's expected. It's welcomed. It's part of the learning process. As an example, include a recurring note in the announcements. If you're struggling with anything, let me know. Reach out. Avail yourself to your students. This small gesture reinforces that caring environment. So my takeaway from getting to visit with the Resolution Center to see what can I do in my classroom would be, in short, the culture of care is built on clarity, communication, fairness, empathy, presence, and consistency. So by showing up for students in meaningful ways, documenting that interaction, encouraging responsibility, we create an online environment where students feel seen, heard, and supported. Remember, being present isn't just about logging in. It's about being connected. It's about noticing. It's about showing students you genuinely care. So when students feel this, the engagement goes up, the conflicts go down, the learning thrives. So let's show our students we're here for them every step of their way. And the Resolution Center is here to help us. Thank you. I was not following the chat at all. So if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
That's what I'm here for, Jackie, to help
Oh, it's
you with
Kelly,
the
everybody, my friend Kelly.
chat. There's lots of kudos. So let me start up at the top and see. Here's a
Well, I have
here's
time for kudos.
well, I can read those to you as well. But one question to think about that was asked is what's the best process for a student that never responds, even after multiple attempts directly and multiple attempts using signals?
And you mean never responds? I had a student that never responded. 2 months later, I heard from this person's wife that he had passed away. So I always want to position myself that I'm doing everything I need to do. And I immediately went back into my notes and said, "Oh my gosh, was I harsh with this person?" And if you've been to any of my ed talks, you know I've told this story before about this particular student. He was in hospice care the whole time he was in my class, and I didn't know it. And it was a way for him to just keep busy. And I didn't know it. And then I sat there and I thought about all the time that you could spend spending time. Why would you want to spend time with me? And then I thought, what was the quality of that time? So I don't know that that was an answer for how to get students to respond, but I think the bigger message is we never really know, even when we think we do, we never really know what's happening on the other side.
To add to that, I would recommend if you have access to see who the student's academic advisor is, perhaps reaching out to them, just saying, hey, I've been trying to reach out to the student, haven't heard back from them. If it's something that's important, pertinent to their success in the course, like, hey, they haven't submitted some things. I just want to make sure everything's okay. Odds are they have spoken to the student, or they can do an outreach and see and kind of connect them and close that gap. I mean, you hear the expression, it takes a village to raise a child. I feel like it takes a village to help a student succeed. So you have these people, other staff members at your resource, that you can work together with to connect with that student. So that would be something that I would do to try to reach out to somebody I know that works with them. And then hopefully from there, the student will respond if they're
So
able.
don't write them off because you never know who they are or what the situation is.
Exactly.
And also, if you're using signals, you're just one click away from bringing in the advisor.
I do want to add something about did my internet cut
No,
out?
you're
Okay.
good.
Sorry.
Your internet's
I'm going
fine.
to
Go,
turn my
Alex,
video.
go.
My internet's horrible today. But one thing I found with signals is if you CC the advisor and you're addressing the student, they will not respond to you. If you say, attention, Michael, in the email, can you reach out if it's, with the communication with the advisor and the student, you have to give them a call to action. They get so many emails that they're not going to respond to all of them. So if you're a faculty member, give them a call to action or email them separately. I have found has worked the best.
Awesome, thanks. I think, Jackie, you mentioned something else that I think probably speaks to students being reluctant or feeling insecure about reaching out. And so normalizing or assuming you should have questions instead of saying, I'm happy to answer any questions. What questions can I answer for you? Even changing how you're phrasing it. The assumption is everyone should have questions and you should be asking them. And so sometimes those little quick videos that I know lots of faculty do just to put the face with the voice and all of that together suddenly opens up the door to, okay, they're not so scary. They were laughing. Their dog barked in the middle. Alexa went off in the middle of their talk, whatever that looks like, helps as well. Another question here. What are best practices for managing an escalated student in the moment, especially when it catches you off guard? How do we handle situations where we may have unintentionally contributed to that escalation?
Well, for me, maybe put a little time between it. And see if I can get a phone call because, as we've discussed earlier, tone is everything. Intent is everything. So I would try and see if I could get a phone call myself just to put them at ease. And I lead in a lot. If students ask me about something they're concerned, which is usually their grades, this and that and the other, I tell them straight away if there's something that I didn't see that I should have. I'm more than happy to go back and review this. I just, let's get together and talk about kind of thing. I don't take the position that it's one and final. What's a military term? I don't take the position that when I grade it, I'm done. If they have questions or concerns, it's subjective. I'm a human being. I'm more than happy to go back and address that. And I try and lead with that if they see something that perhaps I didn't see, I'm more than happy to do that. And that seems to work a lot in that situation.
If the escalation happens while you happen to be on the phone with the student, which can happen, those of you who've spoken to them, you understand how quickly kind of things can turn. I think it's okay to, if you feel like you've contributed, say, I'm sorry, I feel like I might be kind of making this a little bit worse, and I don't mean to because I understand you're frustrated. And then I think it's okay to tell the student, you know what, like from what I understand, clarify, this is what's going on. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to communicate what my next steps are. I'm going to, if it's okay with you, we'll end this call. I'm going to talk to my supervisor, or I'm going to look into this for you, figure out what it is that potentially we can do. And students usually are receptive to that because you're making a plan. I'm going to follow up with you. I'm going to call you by this time, or I'm going to send you an email at this time. So students know that you are going to be doing something, so that you're not just blowing them off. You are actually trying to figure out something for them. And that usually calms them down a bit because they understand, okay, they're trying. They're not just hanging up on me. They actually want to do something to help me. So I think it's okay to admit when you don't have the answer right away and say, let me double check with somebody. I'll talk to my boss. That usually calms them down when they're like, oh, okay, manager's going to get involved. Because sometimes things can be quickly resolved by talking to your manager. They can do something on their end, fix it quickly. And it doesn't need to actually rise to a level where the student is getting really upset and looping in a bunch of people via email, things like that. So that is something that I would say, like, just again, take a beat, let them know, hey, let's follow this, let's continue this later. Let me look into it a little bit more.
I think everyone feels better when you have a plan, right? So even if we can't resolve it on the fly, we at least are creating a roadmap for ourselves, and I mean that just gives at least some clarity to the situation on what I can expect coming forward. There's another question here. Are there recommended actions or documentation that we should complete before sending a student case to the Resolution Center?
I would say if you've got email communication that you can provide, that's always helpful. If you're unsure if something should be sent to us, you can always reach out to our inbox. Our resolution group, our intake group is fantastic at responding, letting people know these are the appropriate next steps. Are absolutely. Like I said, we deal with a lot of various issues, and so almost anything is eligible for review. That's why we're here. We're here for the students. But I would just say as much information, as much detail as you can, email, because we don't have access to your emails. We don't have access to the student emails. So if you can provide that and a little bit more context about what's going on, that's super helpful. And then ultimately we are going to talk to the student and get more from them. So yeah, I mean, that's a great question, but yes, anything you can provide is great.
Another question about how signals work. So Jackie, I don't know if you want to sort of talk through. This indicates that advisors always copied. I thought that I have to put the check mark to indicate that I want the advisor copied, so I can send just an email to the student. But it says, does being copied not mean to follow up with the student?
Well, I think to Allison's point, Dr. Reeves' point, that just because you copy an advisor, they're just going to be aware. And if there's somewhere in your email that there's an action item, if I need something from an advisor, I'll usually email them directly or be in a position to forward maybe the email conversation and let them know where I could use their help. And now I'm speaking to them directly. But if I'm talking to a student, about a late assignment and that I've given, an extension or this and that and the other, I will copy the advisor because I want the advisor knowing I'm on it. So when the advisor is looking through the grade books and they see things are missing, well, hopefully they'll see, well, hey, who's on the case? His faculty member's on the case. We're going to make this happen. Kind of as an FYI, but I don't copy an advisor thinking that there's going to be any action on their part. If I need something from them, I tell them, because to the point they're very busy and they probably do get a lot of emails.
Teresa mentioned she puts response requested if she's hoping for additional input from the advisor. So that's a great tip as well. We are just about time. One other question. Will we receive updates from the Resolution Center after submitting a referral? It's a great process question.
So if you email us with a question, we're going to respond. So you'll obviously get that acknowledgement. But when you submit something through our submission form, and if somebody from my team, if you're on the call, if you could pop that in the chat, that would be great so people can bookmark it. You'll get a message on screen that lets you know that it's been received. We'll reach out to you if we have questions. And so we'll kind of follow up. You'll be able to see some notes in the comment section, the activities in Campus View, if we've worked with the student, but typically we don't unless you're kind of checking in with us. It's not really our practice to follow up with you and let you know details because we don't really know how something's going to go until our investigation is fully complete, and that can take up to 30 business days. So we will let you know, like if you're asking questions, we're happy to respond to that and keep you in the loop. But for the most part, you can see our activity and like when things are going to be closed or, kind of where we are in our process by looking at our comments in Campus View.
Awesome. Well, a huge thank you to both of you today for your, oh, there's Brandy. Hi, Brandy. I didn't want to take away your line, so I will turn it back over to you, but a huge thank you to all of you for being here.
Yes, and thank you to Kelly for moderating the Q&A. Awesome job. Big shout out to our presenters today, Jackie and Elysa. So this concludes our session on resolving student issues before they become issues through a culture of care. So we appreciate our attendees attending today. Be sure to head back to the UAGC Culture Care Summit website to view and attend other sessions. Also, don't forget to vote for your favorite sessions. Those links are available in the chat and also available on the Summit website. Make your votes count on behalf of the University of Arizona Global Campus. Thank you for attending and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for attending. Elysa, thank you so much. I appreciate getting to work with you. I look forward to working with you again.
Likewise. Thank you for asking me, Jackie. It was a pleasure.